Welcome to The Insider, the official podcast for the City of Murfreesboro. I'm Mike Browning. Thanks for joining us. Our topic today is redeveloping downtown with City Manager Darren Gore. Thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you, Mike. Always a pleasure to be on podcast with you. The Insider. Yep, that's it.
It's a good project. It's also known as the Keystone Project.
Correct.
And the council approved it in early October and then had to go before the IDB, the Industrial Development Board, and then it's back to the County Commission, I think, at some point. So explain the process in terms of.
Well, so it's a process that I've just been through once. So I'm going to try to act as though I know exactly what we did. But honestly, we've got a development agreement that the Hillsborough Residential, the developer, has had to enter into with the city, which really defined what are they going to do with the property, how are they going to phase it, what are the components of the development, and the sequencing and the timeline and so forth. That was integrated into a tax increment financing agreement or a tax investment agreement. So those two were one document. So we really didn't have to approve the tax increment financing component. We really needed to do the development agreement. So we did that on October 2nd. Then October 15th, the Industrial Development Board, they had to approve the tax increment financing agreement along with the economic impact plan. Now, once that got approved by the IDB, the economic impact plan did have to come back to council for approval, and that's officially what we approved on October 23rd. Now, all of this has to now go to the county, and there's certain dates or certain, they've got subcommittees, so they have to, I think October 30th is the county property management meeting, November 3rd is the county steering, November 6th, county budget, and November 13th may be the full county commission.
So it's safe to say a lot of eyeballs, a lot of people are going to see this project and approve it before it gets
Absolutely,
to the public.
Absolutely. Obviously, it's on city-owned property, which is exempt property, and so we're not collecting any taxes or property taxes from this property currently. WGNS was really the only property on here that was creating property tax, which was around, $4,400, $4,500 a year. So it's a great candidate for a tax increment financing structure. Now, when it comes to the tax increment financing, though, when you look at it on the split between the county and the city, the county really is the majority of the revenue generator for the TIF. It's about a 65-35% split. So the city will have some significant money to it's a $26 million TIF is the maximum, it's the cap on the increment financing dollar amount, and it can only go up to 20 years. And as you know, tax increment financing, we set that base rate, which is current right now, which is the $4,400. Now, any other improvements, any development that goes on this property now, it gets put onto the property tax rolls, and the property tax it generates gets set aside and basically tagged to go back into the development.
Why are TIFs becoming more popular? Is it because of the high interest rates?
Well, not necessarily. I think they're not new taxes to the city. There's no burden on the current taxpayer. It's saying that this project is going to create new property taxes that will effectively allow it to be funneled back into the project. TIFs can only be used for public infrastructure and parking, structured parking decks, which there's two of those in this development. Those qualify to be reimbursed with the tax increment financing TIF. Also, other improvements, if you have road improvements, if you have parks, if you have utilities, there's any other type of public improvement, a TIF can go towards reimbursing that component.
And there are road improvements in this project.
There are. Now, so this is a $150 million project, and the TIF is set at a $26 million cap. So 1/6 effectively of, and that's, if everything works out, if the development occurs as we envision the development occurring, if the condos and the multifamily units and the retail and the hotel and all of that coalesces over the next 20 years, you're looking at, the project recouping about 1/6 of its cost through the TIF.
Even with the 2 months of approvals, October, November, that you're going through, this will still have to go before the Planning Commission for them to look at the site plan and approve some of that as well.
Yeah, I think that the final plat, the PUD, it may be actually going through the Planning Commission here in the next month or so. Now, the planned unit development, the final plat for the PUD, once that's approved, that pretty much, there's going to be staff comments and conditions involved with that. So there will be a much more robust plans approval when these sections do come in for construction. They will have to go through and make sure that the design meets with the zoning, because a PUD, a planned unit development, is effectively a zoning criteria that they get entitled to build what they say they're going to build, and a PUD is very specific. So in this case, again, they'll have to go through and planning will make sure that the final design it meets the conditions of the zoning or the PUD. And it will have to ultimately, go through the building and codes process, where there will be mechanical, plumbing, electrical, structural, architectural, all types of engineering, and those will have to be approved by and pass the building and codes planning process or approval process before they can start construction.
And ideally, they want the design architecturally, like you said, to comport with what we already have downtown, right, to some degree.
Yeah. Oh, there's lots of, you can go on the city's website and see a lot of the architectural renderings that show what this, it's going to be a very, classic style, I think, traditional architecture. It's not going to be some kind of modern, new age kind of architecture in the middle of downtown. The intent is for it to integrate with our current architecture.
And this project has phases. I think you've identified 3 major ones, but the most important part of it to start with is WGNS.
Yes. So it is before any property is transferred to Hillsborough Residential, any city property can be sold at a closing. They are going to have to work through the relocation of WGNS. I think they have a 4,500 square foot building currently designed and ready to go at the corner of Sevier and Church Street. It's the empty lot across from the parking deck right now. So while they work through that negotiation with WGNS and get that final, because they have to purchase the building, and part of that purchase of the existing building is that they build a new building with a new lot and then that all has to get built, and WGNS has to actually get transferred into that new building before they can start demolishing anything on the city property. So we're hoping that takes somewhere between, around 8 months, maybe by, August, September of next year, and then we can actually close on the city's property and they can start demoing the old Murfreesboro Police Department headquarters, the old City Hall, the fire department admin.
Which are just sitting there right now.
They're just sitting there empty right now. All those department operations have been relocated to different buildings throughout the city now in anticipation of this project.
And this is a mixed-use development. What is referred to as that?
Right.
What all does that mean in this case?
Well, mixed use is basically that's a generic term for components of residential and components of commercial, retail, food service, those kind of things. So right now, if you looked at phase 1, which is really the bulk of the project, that's about, I'm just looking at my notes here, that is about 2/3 of the project total. That's made up of 239 multifamily units, which are basically apartments. And then you've got the bulk of the retail, about over 70% of the retail square footage, which is around almost 26,000 square feet, is going to be in phase 1. Phase 2 is condominiums that will be for sale. There's going to be 100 condominiums planned in that one. Before I get to phase 2, we'll go back to phase 1. Phase 1 will have structured parking and be capable of parking all of the multifamily or apartment tenants along with all the anticipated customers that are going there to shop. and dine at the in the Phase 1 amenities. Phase 2 is 100 condominiums, for sale units. That phase will also have a structured parking lot or structured parking deck. The unique component about, and this is what kind of complicates the issue, is Section 3, which is a hotel, is going to be reliant on parking the hotel visitors in the parking deck that's going to be constructed in Section 2. So Section 2 and Section 3 are going to, we've spent a lot of time over this past year working through a template of a parking agreement so that a future hotelier that's coming in to look at this location will understand that they have reserved parking in this parking deck, and to a large degree, what obligations are they going to have to do to buy into that parking, because they're going to have to pay for their fair share. They're going to have to pay for operation and maintenance, which includes lighting and signage, security, just basic cleaning. So we wanted to really put that out there to let future hoteliers know that, hey, you're going to have to buy into this parking deck over here next to these condos.
On the retail side of it that you mentioned before, which is early on in the project, is it too early to know what kind of retail establishments will come to this?
I think so. I think it's, there's a generic equation that we use to try to formulate or anticipate what kind of sales tax dollars. So, we've been talking property tax, which is pretty much sticks just with the tax incremental financing component. If you get retail in a hotel here, there's going to be significant sales tax generated too, which is a real benefit to the city and the county. So we've made very conservative estimates that there may be 60% occupancy, and then there's the equations like $250 per square foot over the year that it a retail establishment would generate, which I think is a fairly low estimate. So again, it's all kind of it's a best guess at this point, but we're using tried and true kind of algorithms, if you will, to try to predict how much money this new development is going to generate.
And because it is a TIF project, it's also considered a public-private partnership?
Yeah. So TIF is effectively you are taking newly generated property tax, right? So it does not put a burden on any of the current property tax owners in the city. We're not using any tax revenue that's generated from the existing tax base. You're basically taking new taxes that are assessed to the development, and you're turning around and giving that money back to the development, only for the public infrastructure components, though. So that's why you're saying if you've got a $150 million development total, we've only got $26 million that we've identified as public infrastructure that a TIF can reimburse, if that makes sense.
What do you think this will do for downtown economic development?
Oh gosh, I think it's a game changer. I think when I first became city manager, I know that there had been probably a couple of years on this project that Craig Tyndall and Gary Whitaker and Sam Huddleston, they had all worked on this.
It's gone through several iterations.
It's gone through, we went through the first iteration where we did not have it phased. It was just one project. And what we found when I became the city manager, we found out that our current financing market did not allow for one with, a multifamily, a condominium, and a hotel to be financed in one package. The hotel was initially identified as the problem, saying, hey, and basically the bank said, we don't want to finance a hotel or finance, let's just say, the multifamily and have it linked to a hotel that may not perform. And so the performance of the hotel impacts the payback or the return on investment of the multifamily section. So we went through and said, okay, let's cull out, let's separate and isolate the hotel as its own independent financing package, and then it was multifamily and condos. Well, another few months go by and it's basically the same story. Hey, we need to finance the condos separate from the multifamily because, again, the banks don't want to finance multifamily or condos that may fail or that may not perform well, and that impacts the payback or the ability for the developer to pay back on the multifamily component of the loan. So now we've just gone in, and that's really, if you had to button it up, or I had to tell you in the past year and a half, that's what's taken so long. Mm-hmm. It's been trying to create these 3 phases or these 3 sections that could be independently financed by the banks so that we can get liftoff. We can finally get this project over the finish line. And that's just been very, when you start talking about one big package versus 3 packages, and then how those two, like I said earlier, how they're interlinked with, say, the parking the hotel has to rely on the parking of a different section, and how they have to rely on each other for utilities and getting everything pad ready and getting all the, just basically there is still some interrelation on the construction and how they have to get built, and then trying to define that on paper in a contract. It just took a lot of time and effort, and it was very difficult.
Yeah, this was very complicated.
It's very complicated.
It took a lot of time, and that's why it's taken a while to come to this point. It looks like everything, though, is definitely going to happen now. We're far enough along where it should go through, right?
The only I told everyone, somebody asked me, can you give 100% guarantee that this project is going to go forward? And I said, well, I mean, I can't give 100% on anything. I can't give you 100% I'm going to be here tomorrow. Right?
Nobody has
that guarantee. But so I think what I can, because WGNS does need to get worked out. That is a linchpin that has to be set before we can really move forward with all of the 3 sections that I described earlier. So WGNS has to go first, and if that goes first, then I have a high degree of confidence. In the 95th percentile that this is going to happen.
And there are road projects, intersections, widenings that are a part of this as well, right?
That was another kind of a little bit of an issue that we had to work through. The initial agreement was that the purchase of the property from the developer, which is $5 million. I can go through and again, that it's about a 66%, 21%, 13% sale. I think. But in total, all 3 sections will total about $5 million. Well, we have about $4 million worth of road improvements that we had identified. And the initial deal structure was that when we got paid the $5 million in property sale revenue, that we would turn that back around and we would again participate with the developer in doing off-site road improvements. There were some concerns by Hillsborough Residential that some price escalations may happen, and we really could not say that the money we were providing them was going towards those. It could not. We couldn't legally say that we can put price escalators into the contract. Mm-hmm. That just wasn't something that could qualify, and so we ultimately just said, look, you buy the property, we'll take the money, and then the city will conventionally bid out those off-site road improvements. So the money, the $5 million that we anticipate making on the property sale, will go out, and we're going to bid these off-site road
projects.
Improvements, which is going
the
to be
realignment.
The realignment. Right. We're going to realign Front and Vine and Broad, and get that intersection squared up, get it signalized. We're also going to do some signalization improvements at South Church Street and Broad Street. We're going to get some left turn lanes onto Broad, two turn lanes off of Broad onto South Church. We're going to have some deceleration lanes and some right turn lanes, both going eastbound and westbound off Broad Street. So
part of the effect of this then will be to slow traffic down as you hit that section that's right there where the Town Creek is being daylighted, right?
Yeah, when you square off Front and Vine and signalize it, that will that will that's just
Because it's going to be an urban area. You
It
really
is.
want pedestrians to be safe in the area.
The
as
great
well.
thing about the Town Creek project, and I know Sam has said this before, is you've eliminated all those businesses that used to be on that right side of Broad Street, and you had so many
Slowing traffic just
well,
for
you just
turning,
had we're
right?
turning in and out of entrances of those businesses. You got to think about it from now. When this gets done, from Front Street all the way to South Church Street, you're not going to have any right turns off of Broad. There's going to be no ingress egress into and out of businesses on Broad Street because you're going to have Town Creek right there now. So that's going to help traffic a lot as well.
There will be parking garages, but I've also heard it stated structural parking. So how does that come into play?
It's just a parking deck. It's going to be a 3 or 4 story parking deck. So structured meaning it's just like City Hall parking deck.
It's still a parking garage.
It's still a parking garage. The issue, and I'll say this about attracting a hotel when you have structured parking, is there's just no comps. That's what we keep saying. There's no comps for a hotel downtown. And most hotels we have, well, all the hotels we have for the most part in Murfreesboro, they rely on surface parking. Well, even though land is very expensive in Murfreesboro, surface parking is still much cheaper than building a parking deck by about half. Ballpark estimate, it's about $15,000 per space to surface park, and it gets close to $30,000 per space
in a parking
garage. So the question becomes, well, how do you bring in a hotel and ask them to pay double for parking what they could go and purchase a 2-acre site and surface park it for half as much?
So, at least in Murfreesboro.
At least
if you
in
went to
Murfreesboro.
Nashville, it'd be a whole different story.
It'd be a whole different story. I mean, all the hotels down there have parking garages.
And they pay quite a bit.
And they pay quite a bit, exactly. So that TIF, again, is part of that incentive to try to lower that structure or lower that buy-in from a future hotel. We're trying to get the structured parking to an equivalent surface parking rate, if you will. That's a trick because Murfreesboro just doesn't have any hotels.
This will be one of the first ones.
This will be the first ones, right.
Now, the daylighting of Town Creek is coming along. What's the latest on that, and when will it be finished?
Well, I think, really the tail of your eyes tell you what's going on that project. Sam and I used to joke, the daylighting of the creek, it's really a big grading and drainage project. I mean, you're effectively taking a stream that has been in a culvert from the Discovery Center all the way where it finally comes back to, quote, daylight at Cannonsburg. And you're just opening that up. So they're having to go in and excavate. I mean, you're just seeing a big excavation job where they're trying to shape or trying to take out the old pipe, take out all the old concrete and all the old corrugated metal and shape it into what the banks of a stream.
And you can actually see the different layers.
Right. So there's going to be plazas, there's going to be stages. We really think that space it's going to take on a whole new character, and it's going to be a draw. People are going to want to go down there to recreate, to sit by the creek, especially if we have music down there at the plazas and at the stages that are going to be constructed. That's going to entice, obviously, when you have people are going to want beverages, they're going to want food service, they're going to want other type of
So ancillary things will come as
hospitality types
result.
of more ancillary things will come about, and that will create some momentum. And all I keep hearing about economic development is activity breeds activity. So if we can get Town Creek going and then get that pedestrian bridge between Town Creek and the Keystone Project, and once the Keystone Project creates more momentum, then a hotel creates more momentum, and then hopefully
That's the way it works.
Hopefully we're off to the races, and everybody's just clamoring to get downtown.
And there will be a pedestrian bridge as part of the project as well.
Absolutely, yes.
So what is that looking like right now?
Yeah, well, there's always, again, it's another little detail. The devil's in the details. You have to, so we're going to have privately owned property that's going to have to accommodate the landing or where the pedestrian bridge lands on the private property. So we're going to have to encumber that with an easement, an ingress-egress easement. And that design will involve an elevator. which is going to be a maintenance issue, but we've got to make it, ADA compliant, handicap accessible. And, so we're still going through that design, and just when Keystone gets its final design, you got to understand that even all these renderings look really good and they look like there's final design done, it's not finally designed. I mean, we still have to get that 100% integration, and so when Keystone gets its final design, the pedestrian bridge landing will get its final design, and then we'll just have to integrate the two. May end up having two contractors. Whenever you got two contractors working together, there's always a little bit of a you got to make sure that they're not stepping on each other's toes. So that'll be another challenge.
So we're looking like another couple of years before it would all come together and be finished, because it's like, even from the point of the final approval from planning, it's like almost 30 months.
Yes,
right?
I mean, if they can, like I said, the schedule right now is that we would hope to have the construction of the new WGNS building done by October 31st of next year.
Mm-hmm.
That means you don't start demoing, then that means we close on the first phase of the property by January 1 of 2027. Then it takes 2 years to build that. So the end of 2028, we're looking at phase 1 being constructed. So it's phase 1. The phase 2 is probably, we're anticipating that would also be constructed about the same time that those two would go parallel. The hotel we have hedged a little bit on the hotel. We put about a 2-year gap between when the phase 1 and phase 2 would start versus when the hotel would start. So we're showing the hotel trying to be finished by the end of 2029.
But as you said, once the momentum builds and people start to see it visually, there are probably going to be some hoteliers who will want to come.
Right, and I'm saying we're closing on the hotel by the beginning of 2029, and that would actually be finished by the end of 2031. So it's that the hotel. Now that's, again, if things work out perfectly, the hotel comes in right behind phase 1 and phase 2. So we've kind of got a little bit of a time contingency built into the schedule here.
And this is known as the Keystone Project. How did that come about?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I inherited that term. That is a term that Craig or Sam or Gary could
have to name it something. Right?
I had to name it something, and I guess what I can see, Keystone is like, before you can build, you can build an arch or build a building.
Like a cornerstone.
Like a cornerstone. You set the keystone, and that sets the foundation for other things to come.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for being our guest on The Insider.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate the questions, and it's always good to get the cobwebs out of my head, make me think about this.
Yeah. We look forward to seeing it come to fruition.
Oh, I tell you, we're all excited, and the developer's excited, city's excited, council. I mean, it will be a very it'll be a great thing.
All right.
Thanks.
Right. Thanks again, Darren.
Thanks, Mike.
Darren Gore has been our guest here on The Insider. We've been highlighting the downtown redevelopment with City Manager Darren Gore. This podcast originated from City Hall. Thanks for listening to The Insider via our many platforms, including right here on YouTube. Thanks to our faithful producer, Michael Nevels, for editing this podcast. For more information on the City of Murfreesboro, it's murfreesborotn.gov. The Insider is the official podcast for the City of Murfreesboro. I'm Mike Browning. Thanks for joining us.